Why Disney's failing.
Actress that plays Snow White is getting roasted alive by the public, particularly here on TikTok, and the media wants you to think that it's because of racism. But this is the truth. Last week, this clip of the actress went viral.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
And TikTok exploded.
I think that, like, people really need to stop writing stories that reinforce their own insecurities. I feel like a lot of, like, actors, and this is especially true with, like, I guess what you could call, like, woke media, they're creating this media in order to fill a gap in their own life. They're overcompensating for something. So it's not even really art. It's like therapy.
With thousands of posts criticizing the actress. And no matter what the criticisms were that came from fans and audiences, Hollywood and the media did what they do best. They spun the story, insisting the problem isn't with them and what they've created. The problem is with...
Response to racist comment. Well, the thing is that there probably were people that said it's Snow White, not Snow Latina, or, you know, like something like that. Absolutely, there were racist comments that were made. 100 fucking %. Which, by the way, I think it's fine if she wants to play Snow White. It's really not that big of a deal to me. But either way, people are like that. But the race of the character does matter. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't be changing it all the time. So of course the race of the character matters. I think it is intellectually dishonest to say that is not the case. And if you have media and a character looks a certain way, then people are going to expect that that character is going to be that way in the future. That's the way it is. The Little Mermaid, yeah. She's white as fuck. She's pretty close to white. Yeah, I mean, like, come on. Yeah, it's pretty fucking close. It's not where I draw the line.
The problem is with you. You're a racist or a sexist or not progressive enough or even worse.
And this is usually what happens, right? Is that there are people that make these bad comments, but they are much less common than you would expect. And what the media does is they look at a handful of really bad comments, and then they extrapolate that to be everybody who is unhappy about this are these commenters. It's a misrepresentation, and it's done intentionally. Yeah, they're framing it in a way. Yeah, exactly.
You're a dwarf lover.
Well, let's make Thor black. Well, they made Heimdall black, and everybody was fine with it because the actor who played it, who played Heimdall? Was it Idris Elba? I think it was, right? It was a good actor. Like, he wasn't being replaced by somebody who was black. He was being replaced by a well-respected, great actor who did a great job at the character. And that's the difference. It's the same reason why people were okay with, what's this called? Samuel Jackson being Nick Fury. Because nobody gave a fuck. Because it's a good replacement. But whenever you're replacing the person because of their race, well, then that's a lot worse. For example, if they had made Gal Gadot, who is I think she's like the evil, stepmother or something like that in the story. If they had made her Snow White, I bet we wouldn't have had even nearly as many complaints. And you know why? It's because she's a great actor. She was great in Wonder Woman, and people like her. And she's hot.
Gross. Because apparently in 2023, dwarves don't have a place in movies and media. And all of this just shows how out of touch Hollywood and the media are with their core customer base. Yeah. You, the viewer, audience.
Yeah, and you also have to keep in mind that, like, the people that watch Hollywood movies, these are the unwashed masses. This is not the erudite, academic, social elite that are aware of world issues. These are people who laugh whenever the Big Bang laugh track says laugh. Let's be real. Yeah, these are Big Bang Theory enthusiasts.
So in order to understand how
People
we got
clap
here,
in a
let's
movie
break this
theater.
down
Yeah.
frame by frame. First, fans were upset that Snow White was cast by a Colombian-American actress. And when people brought up the fact that this did change the princess's iconic look, even fans that were just saying, hey, the costume looks like it came from a discount rack at Party City, anyone who had a problem with the look of this new Snow White, they were immediately labeled
I
as
don't think that the costume looking bad in a bad angle like that is really too big of a deal, personally, because a lot of things are retouched, etc. But it certainly doesn't look good. There's a lot of post-production.
Then, when fans questioned the removal of the beloved 7 dwarfs from the story, we the public
So there's no dwarves? Just so I make sure I understand. So are there dwarves or not? So there's one dwarf. So is he like sleepy, grumpy? Is he like all of them at the same time? So he's just like, or just really like an awful person that's like useless? Or is he just, yeah, he's just like a super loser, right? Yeah, it's 7 normal dudes and 1 dwarf. Oh my God. You know, this would never happen if they didn't force the idea of these live action remakes. We would never run into this problem. Yeah, like this, we shouldn't even be talking about this. What the fuck is this?
told that we shouldn't even be saying.
I'll be honest. I took my ex-girlfriend to watch the Aladdin one. And I would always like taking her out to movies because we went to the Alamo Draft House and they had pizza there. And so I would just eat pizza. Like, if she ever wanted to see any movie, I'd say, yeah, that's great. Even if it was something stupid. I made her, she made me go watch Maleficent with her. I'm like, okay, that sounds great. I'll watch it. Just because I could eat a pizza. They're fucking delicious. And, anyway, I thought the Aladdin one was pretty good. I'm going to be honest. I didn't think it was great. It wasn't as good as the original, but, like, it was decent. Sure.
Dwarf because it's somehow offensive and not politically correct.
They shouldn't be called dwarves.
No, they should be called people with
They
dwarfism.
shouldn't be called. What's wrong with being called dwarves?
Nothing, but that's not the correct
That's the
term.
story.
Dylan,
The story
apparently
is
you should-
literally-
you're
Why, like, one thing that I find to be very weird about these kinds of people is that they think that, I think that a well-reasoned and a well-meaning individual, like, why is this even a problem? Like, how many times do you have to go to Starbucks before you think about this? How many iPhones do you have to buy before this turns up on your radar? What the fuck? What is this?
not allowed to kill yourself.
And now that the lead cast member, Rachel Zegler, said that this isn't 1937 anymore, and the whole story needs to be refreshed, it begs the question, why even remake something if it was so problematic in the first place? Because Rachel...
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what the first movie ever made was? I think it was called Birth of a Nation. And guess what it was about? The KKK. That's right. I don't think that we need to remake that one. I feel like we could just let that be what it was. Like, why don't we just move on past this shit and we can have a new movie that's a little bit different? That's it. But why is it always got to be? Why they always got to do this?
Zegler was also quoted saying, "Ours is the PC Snow White because it needed that. Our version."
Why would no? People don't want. This is the thing, right? Is nobody wants this shit. Nobody cares about this shit. This is like create a bankrupt. What I'm saying is, like, there are a lot of people who pay lip service to this kind of stuff because it's financially beneficial to do so. But I think the amount of people that actually want to see stories and this stuff changed, like, for example, like, you'll get, quote, canceled if you go against some of this kind of stuff. And that's why you see people that are kind of turning a blind eye to it, or they're okay with it. But I think that the truth is that people don't want this stuff. Now, why do I think that? Because people don't watch these fucking movies. That's why. They don't do well. Look at Ghostbusters, for example. Remember that? It was awful. Morons do? Well, morons watch anything. It's not really a big deal.
Is a refreshing story about a young woman who has a function beyond someday my prince will come. And after that quote, TikTok...
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with hoping that one day you'll get married to a nice guy who's going to take care of you and you can have a family together? When did this become bad? Why is this a bad... I think this is great. What the hell's wrong with you?
Blew up with posts from creators voicing their preference that they don't want to watch a girl boss become a powerful leader. They just want a simple love story. And this is the real reason for why woke remakes are always going to be disasters. It has nothing to do with racism, sexism, or lack of progressivism. It's really about the fact that when it comes to storytelling...
Well, it also is. People just don't like that kind of stuff. This is the same country that voted in Trump. What are we talking about? Yeah, people don't like it. The fuck?
Just like food, people have familiar staples that they enjoy going back to regularly. And these staples, in order to be successful, have to remain...
It's just like... we get some of these people in the chat and it's like, bro, just because your mom wants you to take out the garbage on Sunday night doesn't mean that it's a woman's job to annoy. Jesus.
Consistent. Because when we as human beings are craving something to tickle the pleasure centers of our brains, we go back to the things that we know and love, both in movies and in food. Just think about this. Maybe you love cookies. Maybe sushi is your thing. Maybe it's just a simple burger. People just like what they like. And that's never really going to change, no matter how much you or somebody else thinks it should. Now, that being said, there is nothing wrong with brand new recipes and innovation making their way into media
People do what they want to do.
Food. But when you change the recipe of a classic that was tried and true that people already loved, you're gonna have problems. Let's take Coca-Cola, straight from the McDonald's fountain. This is our example. If you change that, people are going to freak out. Fountain Coke...
I could tell immediately if they ever changed it, man. I could tell immediately, bro, like within one sip.
From the McDonald's tap has been the same recipe since 1955,
right.
But its age doesn't matter. People don't want it to change even though it's old. We don't need something more refreshing than that. Because it's familiar, because it's a classic, because it works.
Because, well, no, more importantly, because it tastes good. That's why.
You prefer Coke from the McDonald's tap, it doesn't necessarily mean that you hate Pepsi. You just don't want somebody forcing you to drink Pepsi and telling you that that's better than the Coke that you knew you wanted. You can like both of them and just be in the mood for McDonald's Coke right now. And the same is true in...
Yeah, I get McDonald's Coke at least. I go to McDonald's probably 2-3 times a week. It's fucking delicious. I love that shit.
But Hollywood and the media don't want to admit this, and they want you to think that this new version of Snow White isn't being accepted because of hatred, because of bigotry, because of the patriarchy, because of everything else that they say is wrong with society. But the reality is much simpler. There are just staples...
Well, it's because people, like, it's actively going against, like, the way the world works. This is just the this is the actual truth. Is that the way that men and women are in relationships has been this way for a very, very long time. And you are not going to rewrite biology, and you are not going to rewrite reality because you find it to be inconvenient. You can say it's not like this. You can say it shouldn't be like this. You can say this is wrong. But it is. People pursue media, and especially fantasy media, because it provides a fantastical platform to reveal a internal truth. That's why something like Lord of the Rings is so good. It's because it's a fantasy movie, but it's about a core human struggle, and it's about a internal truth. Fantasy movies are not meant to be fake. They're not meant to be some sort of weird escape from reality. They're meant to allow people to experience reality in a fantastical way. And that's what a lot of people, including Blizzard, don't understand. All of the greatest fantasy movies, most of them are based a lot on reality. I think that many of them are kind of low fantasy. Lord of the Rings is like that. Berserk is, in general, in a lot of cases, pretty low fantasy. Nosferatu Zod was like, what the fuck? Then there's the God Hand, what the fuck? Ganeshka, what the fuck? But other than that, it's pretty low fantasy. Batman, there it is. Lord of the Rings is an example of high fantasy. You can watch all of Lord of the Rings without knowing anything about Gandalf. You could think Gandalf is a man for the entirety of Lord of the Rings. There are high fantasy moments in it, but the majority of things happen that are pretty low. Gandalf is a literal fucking angel.
Within storytelling.
But what I'm saying is that Lord of the Rings, you can watch Lord of the Rings, and you don't need to know any of that. That's background information that has nothing really to do with the story unless you want it to. And that's my point.
And within the stories that we're all familiar with that shouldn't be altered if we want these pieces of media to be successful. These staples include things like searching for true love, falling victim to vanity and jealousy.
Yeah, it's like searching for true love is like, this is like politically incorrect. Get the fuck out of here. Take your personal trauma somewhere else.
Victory and defeat, overcoming impossible odds, and the possibility of happily ever after. Because people really want and need that today, even if it's just a fantasy. OnlyFans, dating apps, and the lie of the independent, successful, career-driven woman in 2023 has destroyed the overall happiness of women and men in this country. In fact, right now, over 52% of American women are single. And Prince Charming coming into the picture to change that is a literal fantasy for millions of young women and adult women all over.
I just don't see why this is a bad thing. Like, as I've said before, I am a traditional marriage enjoyer. I think that's the way it's been. It works. It has worked. And it will continue to work. I'm not about this, oh, don't get married because all girls are hoes or something like that. Why don't you just pick a better partner? I think it's like the entire mindset behind it, like the hyper feminist stuff and like the hyper red pill stuff, I feel like is extremely toxic, and all it does is play on people that feel like they've been marginalized by the other sex into further radicalizing them into hating themselves and hating everything around them.
Country. And Disney has opted to not provide that as a theme within this movie so that audiences can escape the reality of what they're facing in everyday life. And Disney has done that because they are stupid. Because when you promise great-grandma's famous chocolate chip cookies, a recipe that's been passed down for generations, and then you bait and switch your dinner guests with something that's gone so far off the original recipe that it's unrecognizable, of course they're going to demand...
Well, here's a good example, like with the cookies. Like, imagine you buy Girl Scout cookies, and you know, like, those brown ones that have, like, they're like a donut, kind of, and they have, like, I think coconut shit on them. They're, like, really good. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They're fucking delicious. And if you buy those and then you open it up and it's fucking Chips Ahoy, you're going to be furious. You didn't want this. This is the only thing you didn't want.
What they thought they were going to get. Of course they're going to ask for the thing that they knew they already liked. TikTok's problem with Snow White has really nothing to do with racism, sexism, bigotry, or anything else. People were just promised chocolate chip cookies, and instead they're getting a turd in the shape of a cookie. And when would-be audience members voiced their displeasure over this, the media does what it does best. They went ahead and gaslighted everybody. Or at least...
Which, to be fair, one of the reasons why they do that actually has nothing to do with the media agenda, and it has everything to do with the media just simply wanting to make people mad. Because every single person that goes to that website sees an ad. Or at least some of them do.
They tried to. So just remember, there is nothing wrong with you if you don't like or want what you're being offered by the media. If it smells like dog poop, If it looks like dog poop, it probably is. And you're not weird for not wanting it, no matter how much the media tells you that you should.
Yeah, there it is. This is a great video. It's actually a very, very good video. I agree pretty much everything he said. I'm happy to see more people saying it.